was down by the glenside. I met an old woman plucking young nettles. She ne'er saw me coming. I listened a while to the song she was singing. Glory, oh, to the Bohemian man.
Could you tell me who your relative is? And
My grandfather was the O'Rathaille. He was a co-founder of the Volunteers. He was also became Treasurer of Arms, Director of Arms. And he was married to Nancy, my grandmother, who was in Cumann Na, and who founded Cumann Na along with the other great ladies. And the uncanny thing about it is that my grandfather, they founded the Volunteers at a meeting in the Winds Hotel in 1913. And there's a plaque now on the wall in Winds celebrating the centenary of that founding of the Volunteers. And last year we had the centenary of Cumann Na, and my grandmother is on the plaque beside him on the wall. So I must say I'm very proud of that, having the two of them side by side in death and side by side as they were in life. It's a fascinating story, a real love story. The O'Rathaille was born in 1875 in a place called Ballylongford, which is down in Kerry, and that would be very near Listowel, Tarbert, Ballybunion area. His father, Richard, had a shop there, kind of a hardware, what would you call it, a provisions shop down there, and it grew and grew and grew. And the fantastic thing about Ballylongford is there's an estuary, the Foynes estuary, as you know, is near Tarbert, but there was a tributary river coming in the back of the shop. It was a very lucrative business. Now, he was very involved with the local farmers, and you hear all their stories and that. So he started importing import sort of stuff, and his export stuff, but materials, and he'd use a little river for a boat to bring it out to ships. And he used to bring in coal that way and whatever else. So one day he decided to himself, I'm going to try and set up a co-op or some sort of a farmer's market. So he went on his bicycle on a very bad night and cycled into, I think it was either Tralee or Listowel, I'm not sure now. Okay. But he attended one of these meetings anyway. Okay. And unfortunately caught pneumonia on the way back and died subsequently. And today, the Kerry Co-op is the result of him going in, from what I hear. And that was a fantastic achievement in his lifetime. Okay. So the O'Rathaille then ran the business for a while, but he had no interest in the shop. Okay. And he was studying medicine until he got TB, and that was the end of that. So he sold off the business for quite a substantial sum, and he had an income from that, I think it was around 900, which was a lot of money then. Needless to say, when he joined the Republican, the national movement, a lot of that money went into the cause. But he went away to America, and I think he spent around 10 years there. In fact, he had a house built in Philadelphia, I believe it to be Sliabh Lucre was the name of the house. He spent quite a lot of time in Europe, and he met Nancy, and he just totally fell in love with Nancy.
He met her in Europe?
I think it was in Europe he met her, as far as I know now. It could have been America. But he heard that she was being dated by this guy, and she said, God, I better get my act together. So he went, I think it was Tiffany's in New York, and bought us a fantastic ring. I saw the ring, held it in my hand. It was a big rock. But however, he got and proposed to her fast, and she accepted. And that was when they had 5 sons, I believe, 5, yeah. There was one died at birth. And when they came home to Ireland, of course, 2 of the sons were born in, as I say, they were travelling around, but both of them, my father was born in America. And they finally settled in Herbert Park after a lot of shuffling around. These are the laurel trees here, which the photographs were always taken in. But this is where he drove out the last time with his Dion Bouton car, which would be parked up there. And he drove first to the Liberty Hall, and then he drove into the GPO, where he, of course, came out with the famous sentence.
Yeah.
Now, the people that walk through those gates, and they are the original gates because they've been mended so many times. My aunt always had great pride in keeping the property updated, which was, I don't know how she could, but she did it. And that's where a lot of the planning went on. That's where Padraig Pearse came, Eamon Martin, Michael Collins, Owen McNeill, Thomas McDonough, Eamon Camps. They all came here for various secret meetings. This house is so historic, and it really is a credit to my aunt the way she has kept it alive and kept it intact.
Okay.
And she will. I mean, I will very. I'll really miss her. And she was a matriarch of the family. So it's a very, very sacred house, very sacred history to it. And when the extension was being put onto the kitchen, they found a revolver hidden in the wall. Now, some people said it was Michael Collins. Some people said it was the Shocks, but others say that it was a spare gun that my grandfather had.
Okay.
Now, my grandfather was very good with his hands because he did a lot of work into the house himself, because he built the house in Kerry with his own hands in Bantry and John Thraw. He also he hand carved and put up the mantelpiece in the living room there, which is a beautiful mantelpiece. And my aunt used to love sitting there by the turf fires, you know.
What years roughly would he have been here from?
I think from 1904, around that time.
Yeah.
1904, 1906, so around that time.
Okay.
Till the morning he drove out. Now, it was Desmond Fitzgerald that came on that faithful. He had only drove, and you can imagine the trip he had down the country. He only had come back here.
Yeah.
And he was only in bed, literally, exhausted.
Yeah.
And disillusioned.
Yeah.
Because the people he went down were all full of vigour to go in, as he said, and hear the clock strike.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he had quite a hard time telling them, no, it's been cancelled. And yet to be awoken to say,
Yeah.
it's time to go, it's started.
Yeah.
On entering the GPO, he met Collins and Pearse, and of course, that's when the famous statement was made, "I've helped wind the clock, so I've come to hear it strike." It was the first thing. He was made treasurer the minute he went in the door, and he wasn't too happy with the rising at the time, with the sudden turnaround, because he was against it in one way, but. He went up to the top floor, you know, the gallery upstairs.
Yeah,
he spent a lot of his time up there, actually. But he noticed Collins came in one day with a British soldier, and they had no rope, so they tied them up with telephone wire, old wire, and they put him in a telephone box that was downstairs. And he let a roar down, apparently, and he went downstairs, and he told him to immediately release the man. And he said, "What?" Collins says, "No." I said, "Yes, we will put him to work. Far better. So you stay down there." And he brought him upstairs and sat him down to watch the safe. I said, "You watch that safe now." And that was that. So and the man actually, many years later, wrote back the kindness of the O'Rathaille. I don't really know whether people understand these people. They came from all walks of life. And the majority of them were passionate people, of course. You had the likes of, you had poets, you had shopkeepers like Tom Clark. And they had this vision. You could call them romantics in their time, but they had a great graw for Éireann, for an Roisin, you know what I mean? They just had. And they were willing to give up everything they had, including the ultimate sacrifice. And I think that these people should not alone go down in history as our golden generation and forefathers. I mean, there'd be no Dáil without them. There's no doubt about it, and we wouldn't be sitting here without them. I think that more should be done to honour these people. When the O'Rathaille, as I said, he was Director of Arms, he called himself Ua O'Rathaille, and UA means D. And the O'Rathaille in English, you know. And he said he was the chief of the clan, in other words. It's something similar to that. W.B. Yeats actually wrote a poem about him. Do not deny his right sing a thee before his name. And I think that was a beautiful thing. The poet understood what he was talking about. You see, what I'm coming back to is that they were all romanticists at the time, but they still had very, very strong, deep beliefs.
Okay.
They loved their country. You know, they just loved their country. And as I said before, they paid that sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice.
Some died by the glen side, some died mid the stranger, and wise men have told us their cause was a failure, but they stood by old Ireland and never feared danger. Glory, oh, to the Bofidian men.
This is why my heart is in the Moore Street area and the terraced houses where the whole GPO garrison took refuge after the GPO went to fire. And that should go down, and the whole area should be put into a battlefield area. We're the only country in the world that, for some reason, the government hasn't seen the opportunities here. Apart from, this is the most historical site in Europe, according to the National Museum.
Okay.
And nothing has been done about it. So there you are, Marcus. So I suppose we better get out of the Glue Stone. And it's a lucky thing we had it parked on O'Rathaille Parade on Moore Street, because that fan next to the plaque, you couldn't hear anything, and it was a good idea of yours so that I could come into the car to read the words of the note. So well done. So will we go out now and do the street, and I'll show you the charge. Before he left to go on the fatal charge up the evacuation route through Henry Lane onto Moore Street, he turned around to Desmond Fitzgerald and he said, "Sure, look, it's better than catching a cold on the top of the whole tram." Pearson Connolly and the two brothers. The two Pearson brothers spent their last night up there, upstairs, where it's blocked up at the wall. Look at the wall, the bricks.
Yeah.
Come see this. And the evacuation route was down Henry Place from the side door of the GPO.
Okay.
And they came up, they had terrible trouble crossing Moore Lane where the skip is. With fire coming down. And that's the bottling plant there on the left, which they've taken the top story of.
Where? Just around the green building?
Just there, yeah. But it was this door that they got into. Oh, I noticed now, you see, they put up there.
But
I went through this bolted up door, the concrete up door, and that's how they got access to that corner building there.
Nice.
And then, bit by bit, they burrowed their way down the buildings, the whole entire terrace.
Okay. It says something though that, you know, you've got a poster of a load of concerts covering the door.
This is it.
You know?
That's why I was very incensed with the proposed video that they brought out in commemoration. That was a total farce, and it was just, none of the leaders were mentioned in that. And I mean, what the hell has Brian O'Driscoll got to do with the 16 Rising?
Yeah.
I think it was actually an insult.
But
that's where they got in anyway. Now my grandfather came up along here.
Okay.
He decided when he left the GPO, he came up along here and he had 12 people with him.
Okay.
Who just wanted to go with him. And the idea was that on the bottom of the street there, where that grey building is,
on the left.
Street, no, on the bottom,
sorry, at the end, yeah.
that was the Williams and Woods factory.
Okay.
And the British had a big hold on that, and they decided on a barricade down the bottom. If they could put that barricade out of action, they could get everyone out to another location. So that he came down Moore Street here, and the 12 people, they split in two, and six went to that side of the street, and 6 went to this side of the street, under a lot of fire from all angles, from what I hear. And as I say, I have an eyewitness report, but they held in close to the wall there. But what my grandfather didn't know, and the rest didn't know, was there was a machine gun, what they call a Maxim machine gun, located in the Williams and Woods factory. Unfortunately, he was hit once, as was a couple of his men, two of whom died at that corner there, and one is a Scottish man from McCarrick. We are passing now, of course, where the last. Now, this is no bearing to the Plunkett name, but this is number 16 here. This is where, and it literally is only marked by that little plaque up there. And that plaque was found by our PRO in a skip one day. And now it's back up there again. I mean, this is what the problem in this country is. They just don't want to know. Which is a scandal in itself, a scandal. And the Taoiseach came down here amongst many other people on our tours, and he mentioned that this was streets were the most important lanes and streets in our Irish history. But he's done nothing, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing. And the person that he's elected doesn't seem to. She came down here one day and she said she went into the Paris bakery, which should never have been allowed go. And it was because one of her advisors made a mistake, that it was built after 16. It wasn't. It was a pre-16 building. Number 20 Moore Street here was built in 1818 and was the oldest skin hospital in the world. Same year as the GPO was built. So that'll show you the advisors where they get their information from.
That's the red building here, is it?
Yes.
There's 50 long years since I saw the moon beaming on strong many farms, and in eyes with hope gleaming, I see them again through all my sad dreaming. Glory, oh, to the Bothnian men.
Now, so he was on this side here, and he caught, unfortunately, one of the. I don't know whether he was shot once or twice, but he lay crouching for a while because the amount of fire coming from the Williams and Woods factory, and as I say, from the rooftops, it was just whizzing all around the place. So a total bedlam. So he decided what he would do is he would crawl along that side and make a dash across the road. It was the only way to get across out of the line of fire. And this is where he went down Sackville Lane, which is now named after him, the Rally Parade.
Okay.
So I don't know whether when it was crossing through the line of fire, whether he was shot the second time or whether it was the first time. I mean, you know, with the amount of artillery fire at the time, and with the amount of sniper fire that was going on, especially, it's hard to know. But I feel myself, I always felt that he was hit the second time in the spine, actually, which totally crippled him. He knew he was gone, you know. So while he was dying on the doorway, he took the note out of his pocket and, luckily enough, had a pencil or a pen and wrote that famous note. And it was a passing nurse or not a nurse, but a lady who was in the castle noticed. By this time, it was heard that the British wouldn't allow anybody near his body, which I thought was a despicable act, because he was so kind to the English, being his prisoners in the GPO.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so upset when they robbed his watch off him when he was dying. They refused an ambulance to come in twice. And that was an eyewitness report about the ambulance. It was actually driven by a man called Albert Mitchell. And they could have quite have easily let them in. So he wasn't happy with the British soldier not allowing him in the first time, because it took nearly, Rattle was there, I think, for 36 hours. You know, what a way to die alone in a laneway, you know. And he said on the second time he returned, the same soldier was still standing there. And the soldier said, look, my life wouldn't be worth it if I let you in. Why? Well, he said he must be an important bastard because they want him to bleed to death. Yeah. Of course, the O'Rathaille then, before he died, his feet were up on the footpath and his head was in the gutter kind of thing, but he wrote with his finger. He was able to stretch up with his finger and write on the doorway, the O'Rathaille died here. When he finally died, the officers went down and just stripped him all his watch and rings and the letter. Or, I don't know whether it was a nurse or a cleaner, but she was in the castle. But she had heard how the O'Rathaille's body was left like a rag doll on Moor Lane, on O'Rathaille Parade now. And what a lonely death, you know. I don't know what was going through his mind. But anybody that came to him, he just told them to vamoose and look after themselves. And when word finally got out, she saw the note on an officer's desk, it seems, and just lifted it and put it in her pocket and got it out, which is a marvellous thing that it... I mean, I would hate to think that it never... Only for that lovely person, it would never been delivered. One thing which I would like to say at this point in time is when the family put that plaque up into situ, in 2004, I believe it was, my aunt, my lovely, beautiful aunt, who was a Hui, she was married to my father's brother, Moilmara, who would be Miles, and lived all her life in Herbert Park, and in fact changed the deeds over into her own name and bought the house. She unveiled the plaque, and I'll always remember the day she came down here, and sadly she passed away in that very house, 40 Herbert Park, a week ago, which was, I believe it was a 13th when she passed away as well. But I will always remember Blonnet, my beautiful aunt, and every time I come here to look at the plaque, I remember her for unveiling it. So it's both the wording is sad and the memories are sad. This was the note. Darling Nancy, I was shot leading a rush up Moore Street and took refuge in a doorway. While I was there, I heard the men pointing out where I was and made a bolt for the laneway I'm in now. I got more than one bullet, I think. Tons and tons of love, dearie, to you and the boys, and to Nell and Anna. It was a good fight anyhow. I get emotional every time I come down here and read that. But I must say, I'm so glad that, because it gives us a marvellous insight. That note could have gone missing with his watch and his ring, but as a subsequent, now, because of the bravery of that cleaner, or that person who was in Dublin Castle, knew about the atrocity of not allowing anybody near his body, and decided to deliver it in person to Herbert Park.
What are your views on 2016?
I want 2016 to be a special commemoration for all the people of Ireland, especially for the descendants and any of the relatives, and for the diaspora who can't be here. It's the most important date in the calendar for this nation, as it is the 100th centenary of the foundation of the state. And I think that the government should now get off their backsides and realise this, and realise the anger that's out there with relatives and descendants, especially the descendants. They just can't understand. And they can't understand why the garrisons aren't being recognised, the various garrisons around the city, and especially the battlefield area. This battlefield area and the terrace that I'm looking at here with you today, that entire terrace should be saved. It's not for this one generation just to make up Maria willy-nilly their mind and click their fingers and say, look, we'll leave the 4 buildings, the National Monument, and get rid of everything else, to a bankrupt developer, may I add. And this, those 4 buildings wouldn't be there only for the descendants. It was a long struggle. On another occasion, he turned around to Countess Markovich and said, this is madness, but glorious madness.
Passed on my way, God be praised that I met her. A lifelong shorter, I'll never forget her. in my heart.